RuneScape Leagues. The perfect blend of high-power fantasy and a fun and unique challenge. An opportunity to twist the content that you know and love and experience it in a whole different way. But wait, this time it's on that other RuneScape to the one that you know and love? The one that everyone and their dog keeps on telling you is bad?
Ruff, RuneScape stinky.
Well, I'm King Cuddler, and I'm here to let you know that Rs3 isn't as scary or intimidating as you may have heard. And while there are a lot of big changes and a lot of things that you will benefit from knowing beforehand, just remember that if this is your first time playing, you're about to embark on a journey some of the hardcorest RuneScape players could only dream of experiencing again. Getting to enjoy our favourite game with a fresh pair of eyes for the first time. So sit back, grab a drink and a notepad, and relax as I walk you through 10 things you're going to want to know before you play RuneScape League's Catalyst. Number 1. The UI. So, there's really no beating around the bush on this one. The first and biggest fear I hear from OSRS players starting Rs3 for the first time is anxiety over the completely different UI. And trust me, you've said it over and over and over and over and over again when I've asked what you feel most nervous about. There's so many buttons. You can customize it to have even more buttons. Even the buttons have buttons. And while you may see many elite PVM masters with 15,000 different skill bars and more multicolored flashing lights than your average underground rave, just know the UI system is something that can very easily be controlled to your own tastes. For one, the system is so incredibly customizable. Don't want to have more than just a few basic open bars to start? Maybe just your map, your chat, your inventory, and some basic bars for abilities or two? That's absolutely fine. You can totally have that. Hey, you can even emulate some of the classic locked-in interfaces of RuneScape in days gone by going into the settings, going into the customization, and selecting game view. And you can shrink this down and then just keep your UI outside of the screen if that's what you want. And don't feel that you're in the mood to sit and wade through menus and experiment for a couple of hours? Well, Jagex has cooked up one extra solution for you. See a streamer, a content creator, or even one of your friends who's made a UI that you really like? You can directly import their UI into your game by going into the settings, typing in their username, and it will automatically populate their UI for you. If you do want to dig into the settings though, I recommend this fantastic video by Takimaki, while link in the description below. In the video, he makes a fantastic starter UI that I feel like a lot of old school players would find incredibly comfortable when playing for the first time. Number 2. The Alt1 plugin. So you're coming across from old school and you're used to the myriad of plugins and advanced tools for helping you play the game. Unfortunately, Rs3 doesn't have a comparable third-party game launcher with all those tools and plugins, but we do have a tool called Alt1 available to us that acts as a screen reader and can help with a few things, mainly for making dungeoneering a whole lot less painful with DG key, and clues through the clue trainer tool. Sadly, explaining the in-depth sides of these two is probably a whole video in and of itself, but just giving you a look at how insanely powerful the clue tools are, here's me solving a couple of puzzle clues with the clue trainer to show just how quickly you can use them to solve clues. Now, unfortunately, there is no plugin showing you where to click and holding your hand through things like quests. You're going to have to do these things the old-fashioned way, unfortunately. But not to worry, because our next entry will at least be able to help you there. Number 3. Top tier external resources. So no doubt you're already familiar with wikis, Discord communities, and all number of things along those lines from your time in old school. But let me tell you, however good those resources are for old school, they're 10 times better within RS3. This isn't a dick measuring contest by any means. This isn't a, my community's better than your community. This is a testament to the level of obsessive prowess 20 years of mastering a game can give you. There are geniuses out there who have spent every waking moment of the majority of their lives living, breathing, and consuming this game, and they've had the decency to share this information with all of us. So firstly, on the RuneScape wiki, there are more guides than you can shake a stick at, covering every aspect of the game with information you need to get yourself going. Beyond just the basic drop information for enemies, there's calculators, tools, there's guides that will help you master bosses, understand mechanics, and set yourself up for success. If reading isn't your style, there are a number of affiliated communities for almost all types of content that you can find by visiting the official RuneScape Discord, and any questions that you have, you'll find dozens of passionate people who will more than happily sit you down and help understand parts of the game that they love. While some of these communities have maybe had a little bit of a bad reputation in the past as being elitist, I can say from personal experience, most, if not all of these, are incredibly welcoming to newcomers if you're open to receive a bit of advice. Struggling with combat? The folks over at the PvME Discord can help you. There's some weird achievement or difficult thing you're chasing and you can't quite crack it alone, or you need help from some extra people to complete it, the suitably named Achievement Help Discord will be there for you. So whoever you are, whatever you need, there are communities out there for you. Feel free to explore and find them. They are all linked in the affiliated section of the RuneScape Discord. Number 4. Changes to combat. So, this is probably the next biggest change that scares new players, and trust me, I get it. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. Let him in, get him comfortable, offer him some tea and biscuits, because we're civilized here, and let's talk about it. It is, of course, the evolution of combat, or EOC as you may have heard it called. The biggest, most controversial change to RuneScape ever made. In old school, you've got fairly simple combat. Click, you hit, they hit, you might miss every now and then, repeat. Now, okay, for some bosses you may need to do some complex multi-flick, press, switch, tick, manipulate, wombo combo, but the fundamentals of combat are click, attack, do damage, win. And in RS3, the combat is bars and abilities and buttons. So many buttons. And you can manually cast them. They can be done automatically, and you have no idea what's going on suddenly. This is all new to you. Why are you breathing fire? What does this do? Why am I doing this? Ah! Well, let's take a step back and we'll cover this one step at a time. But for the purposes of this video, let me reassure you. By the time we're done in this video, combat isn't going to be nearly half as complicated or scary as you expect. While early evolution of combat was a huge mess, more than a decade has passed since its controversial introduction, and Jagex have spent the last decades refining the system into a thing truly I consider to be beautiful. So let's start with some of the more basic things that you need to know. The first and most important thing, your accuracy at enemies is a huge part of your damage. This generally means use your highest level weapon at any particular boss, paying attention to its particular defensive stats, and if it has any specific weaknesses, try to exploit them. Pretty basic stuff, and so far not too dissimilar from what you know in old school. Always pay attention to the numbers on the enemy's health bar as shown here, and the closer you can get to 100%, the more of your potential damage the enemy will be taking. The next most important change you need to know, and it's a big one, protection prayers are no longer 100% damage reduction. With the evolution of combat scaling bosses' HPs into the tens, hundreds, and even millions of HP, having 100% damage reduction of bosses would be pointless. broken, ridiculous. So instead, as a basic rule, your protection prayers will be doing a 50% damage reduction against the relevant damage type. Breath flecking is still a thing, but generally it's a later game combat technique that you'll be doing with some more advanced uses, such as the Split Soul Curse. But that's way above everything that you need to know for now. Also, in some cases, the 100% damage reduction will still apply, so you'll still have that much needed damage reduction in places like Jad in the Fire Caves. One really cool thing is that there is a defensive ability named Devotion that does temporarily grant you that 100% damage reduction with the right prayer, so remember to look out for that name and see how you unlock that. And finally, for the most basic combat information, there's one other change that'll be immediately obvious. Experience is now not given simply for damaging an enemy, but only on actually killing it. You might think this slows things down, but as long as you have 1% accuracy on an enemy, you're guaranteed to be able to hit them. And while you might deal next to no damage at this accuracy, the higher your accuracy gets, you'll very quickly find that you're able to tear through many enemies like paper to rack up huge experience rates very quickly, even without the inevitable experience increases that come with leagues. There are a few small details about the fundamental differences of combat that I'd be failing if I didn't sort of briefly touch on as well. They're mostly self-explanatory, so I won't get into too much depth, but it is worth noting that the various safe spotting techniques that you may remember for training aren't really so much of a thing in Rs3. There are times where you can do that, but for the most part, with the game's combat and how enemy AI works, it's going to try and force you into combat. Also, for gear, you'll find that things are mostly separated into two distinct types: power armor and tank armor. Despite what the name says, tank armor isn't particularly effective for letting you survive, outside of a few high-level strategies involving spells that we, again, will not be covering because that is just far too advanced. But generally speaking, if you want to be doing big damage and speeding through kills, power armor is going to be your friend. There is a third armor type called hybrid armor type, but that's something fairly niche as well, and to keep things simple, we're not going to touch on that. But there are a few times where hybrid armor would be useful, and you'll probably find if you're ever reading a wiki guide and hybrid armor is something you might want to consider, it'll make very heavy mention of it there. For weapons, you'll find that all combat styles, with the exception of Necromancy, have their ability split between dual wield and two-handed weapon styles. The intricacies of what combat these tend to encourage are, again, probably something a little bit too advanced for this video. The only real difference in this day and age is that two-handed melee is usually really good for doing AoE damage to large groups of enemies. But I would always recommend experimenting with these to try and find out what feels best for you. And remember, if you do switch between weapon types, you may need to remove some combat abilities on your bars, as they may no longer work. Now, that's just a very general basic overview of like the broader concepts of what's changed in combat. We haven't really talked about the ability part yet, which I suppose brings us on to number 5, Revolution Combat. So now we get to the big, scary, flashy button bar that we've all been looking at and feeling quite intimidated by. Well, I've got some good news for you, new player. If you don't want to sit and try and figure out what's good, what's bad, what order do I put these abilities in, do I have a treat for you. Introducing PvME's Revolution Guide. Quite literally, your one-stop shop to set up a bar and immediately have a functional set of combat abilities that, while it won't get you through all content, will set you up to be able to do most basic things without having to think. It's quite literally as simple as that. I honestly, I wrote a whole section going into the in-depth things about do this and do that, and actually, no, this guide just is your beginning and end in terms of starting out as a new player. They've crunched the numbers, they've done the thinking for you, And honestly, I cannot sing the praises of PvMe enough. When it comes to combat, there are people in there that Jagex goes to for advice when designing new content. So, trust me when I say, these guys know what they're talking about. Now, one thing to note is that they do separate those bars into two different things. One is just a simple Revo bar, and then they call something Revo Plus Plus or Revo Plus. The one thing that you need to know about a general Revo bar is that they'll still be expecting you to cast ultimate abilities and thresholds, which are abilities that use that big yellow bar that's called adrenaline down here, manually. Meanwhile, the Revo Plus Plus bars are optimized to try and deal maximum damage and have you always generating and spending adrenaline at fairly opportune times. I'd personally recommend starting out with a Revo Plus Plus bar while you get comfortable, and try moving on to manually casting spells and abilities as you progress and start feeling a little bit more confident with your abilities within the game. And honestly, like, again, I cannot understate, this should be the most complicated and scary thing for you, but people know this and they've done so much work in onboarding new players, and this is genuinely the one thing I want you to take from this video. Have a look at what they've got there and start using their advice. It is brilliant. Number 6. Necromancy is your fast pass. Quite simply put, Necromancy is amazing. The newest skill in Rs3 currently, Necromancy fundamentally shifted a lot of options for new players to RuneScape, and provides a fun and unique learning experience that will race you to the mid-game of content faster than any other combat style in the game. There are a lot of reasons for this, but the simplest thing to flag for now is that Necromancy's main gear progression until the end game content for the skill is done entirely through a series of crafting tasks and small challenges. You aren't bound to RNG boss drops until the final tier of the gear. You could, if you know what you're doing, have tier 90 gear, the second highest in the game currently, day 1, far quicker than any other style would give you. And it's not just that. The skill has a benefit of over a decade of evolution of combat knowledge guiding its design, leaving a sleek, streamlined skill that is incredibly easy to pick up, understand its unique resource system, and master. If you want to pick the comfortable, easy to learn, easy to master combat style for this upcoming leagues, if the option is there for you, Necromancy is a surefire bet. Now, is it the best combat style? In the hands of a true master of the game's combat? Unfortunately, no. But in your average player's hands, absolutely. At the end of the day, I don't want to have the 1% of players who can play this game better than anyone else trying to dictate what you should be looking at. If you want to skip all the complexities of what do I do next to progress my gear and want to race into tougher challenges faster, pick Necromancy. And as a bonus, it comes with its own series of quests that builds your knowledge over time while requiring a good range of skills from across the game to progress in, meaning you have goals for a first couple of days really to focus on and build towards. Genuinely, it's hard to undersell just how much Necromancy is worth jumping at if you want the gentlest entry into RuneScape's combat. Number 7. Have you heard of the mining and smithing update? So, after combat changes, perhaps one of the most noticeable changes you'll find in Rs3 is that some of the skills you know and love have changed. And when it comes to mining and smithing, these changes are massive. Not only is there brand new ores and metals to work with, not only did they entirely rebalance the levels metals are mined and smithed at to match their combat levels they're useful for, but the skill itself mechanically is entirely different. Instead of mining rocks depleting, you now have a stamina bar that you need to re-click the rock every so often to refill to mine optimally, and a progress bar that fills as you whack away. As you level up, your stamina goes up, and the progress you get on metals increases, allowing you to low focus mine for longer. And smithing, well, smithing is a whole different ballgame entirely. No longer are you suddenly processing 20-something bars into multiple items in seconds. You now have to heat your bars and work them with your hammer over multiple hits to finish them into an item. This may sound tedious to start, but the experience rates have been adjusted accordingly to make sure you're not spending longer here overall, but it makes an engaging gameplay loop that makes these skills feel a lot better representation of the work that they're meant to depict. As a bonus bit of information that'll be useful to know, from level 40 and above, you'll also be able to upgrade adamant armor pieces and higher, and once these pieces are fully upgraded, you can sacrifice a completed set of armor for even more experience. Burial smithing is one of the best ways to level the skill if you don't mind losing your end product, so keep that one in mind when you're training. Number 8. War's Retreat. In old school, one of your cornerstones of gameplay is your player-owned house. Need to get somewhere quick? Restore HP and get back to bossing or running around doing clues? Whatever really, you name it. Your player-owned house is your one-stop shop for getting around the world. In Rs3, unfortunately we didn't have the guiding hand of God Ash to untangle the spaghetti code of player-owned housing, meaning that the content there has largely remained a buggy, pointless mess it was before the improvements that he brought. There are other uses for your construction skill that we may cover in a future video, but for now you might be asking, if we don't have the player-owned house, what do we do? And folks, let me tell you, prepare to have your mind blown. After obtaining 10 kills at any number of bosses, make a quick visit north of Draenor, jump into the War's portal, and buy what's known as the War's Retreat teleport. This will now give you a free teleport to this hub for all your future PvM needs. You'll find a bank, an upgradable bonfire, and a store that'll give you a bunch of powerful unlocks. At 100 combined boss kills, the most important of these will be obtained. You'll unlock a portal that directly brings you to a boss's doorstep, so long as you have at least one kill at them. With an easy access to a bank and a free teleport back there, you can now begin to farm a boss to your heart's content. And remember, this is any boss. Rush 100 kills at Mole and boom, huge upgrade. At 200 kills, you unlock the Altar of War, a way to restore your summoning and prayer points. So that little healing pool that you use in your player-owned house, that you get for killing 200 bosses. Any 200. And quickly, you can see that this not only replaces the need for any of the late-game player-owned house upgrades from old school, but it has even more benefits, including a bank and those direct boss teleports. Just a quick tip with this, by the way. This means that while Banker's Note in old school was a game-changing relic for long trips during bossing, you might not even need it, because you can continuously return to a bank and be back to a boss in seconds in Rs3. It's worth remembering this if they pop Banker's Note against a suitably powerful relic. Number 9. Bank presets. So, having a bank within seconds doesn't really mean that much though, right? Because you'll still have to be stumbling through hundreds, if not thousands of items that you're not super familiar with while trying to find what you need for a boss. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, boy do we have a solution to this problem. Perhaps one of the biggest quality of life improvements made to the day-to-day gameplay in Rs3 can be found within your bank, in the form of customizable bank presets. Want to make a setup for doing bossing in your best magic gear with some basic combat supplies? Easy. Want to quickly restock between boss kills? Sorted. One click, it's all you need. Bored of the grind and want to switch over to doing some mining very quickly? Again, one click. So make sure to set up a few basic presets so you can jump between them quickly. Name them the appropriate thing and remember to keep them updated as you progress your gear. This small, convenient way to jump between different content without having to spend minutes and minutes of time trying to remember the exact perfect combination of gear and resources is genuinely perhaps one of the most brilliant things introduced in Rs3. I cannot tell you the number of times when I was playing old school leagues and I had to spend 2 to 3 minutes at a time trying to remember exactly the right amount of potions and brews and food and oh actually I need this weapon, not that weapon. No, you can create boss presets with the specific gear that you need, save them, leave them there, and with the press of one button, have them back in your inventory immediately. It's fantastic. It will save you over the length of the leagues, potentially hours of your life. And finally, number 10. A whole new world. And so, we finally come to perhaps the most important thing on this list. At least for me. So let me tell you, as a player of RS3 now for the past 5 years, I am now fully ingrained into this game. There's rarely something new, fresh, or exciting for me to discover anymore outside of new content when it's released. You guys are in a position of unspeakable privilege to me. Think back to your own early days of playing old school RuneScape. The feelings that you might have had where you maybe sort of recognized things, maybe from when you were a kid and played then. The joys of slowly uncovering things that you had no idea existed. The thrill of beating an incredibly difficult boss for the first time. The joy of finding a new quest that'll have you dying of laughter or raging at puzzles that you just don't understand. You are about to experience what is undoubtedly my favorite game for the first time with a fresh set of eyes. I don't know if you can understand just how jealous of you I am. So, my final piece of advice, and the thing I want you to take away more than anything, is that most importantly, more than anything else, play the way that you find fun. If you want to go blind beyond this and struggle, disregard all of my previous advice about checking a wiki or reading an article or joining a Discord. Try and figure things out for yourself. Want combat and progression to be more of a struggle? Say fuck you to Necromancy and charge into battle swinging a giant sword. The most important advice that I can give you is just have fun. Don't spend your entire time comparing this game to old school. The game is what it is, and it isn't what it's not. Does old school do some things better? Absolutely. But for everything that I can think of that's on that list, there's almost certainly something, or almost certainly an equal number of things, in fact, that are just as good, if not better, on RS3. Whether that's challenging bosses, or exploring a new set of lands, getting to see quests that you'll never experience play up to their conclusion in old school, I promise you, there's something in RS3 that you'll walk away with, forever changing your love for both games in a brand new way. So please, give RS3 a go, even if it's only for this one time. And who knows, maybe it'll open your eyes to giving it a bit of a further go once Leagues is over. And bonus tip, number 11. And no, actually, screw that. This is the most important tip, is that for all of week 1 of Leagues, I will be live 12 hours a day at minimum, probably a lot longer, to provide a friendly face for any questions that you might have as a new player to RS3. Want to come hang out and see things being done by a person with years worth of game knowledge? I'm here for you. Want to ask dumb questions in a safe place where there'll be zero judgment? Step right up, because I'm dumb as fuck, and I have asked far stupider questions in my time on RS3. Trust me. Not sure if Leagues is something that you'll enjoy, or you just want to check it out for a little while to see if it's something you might be interested in? Pull up a seat and get comfy. Genuinely, I wouldn't have made this video if it wasn't for the countless friends from old school asking me 10,000 questions the day after the RS3 Leagues announcement. So, I appreciate my opportunity to share just this little bit of knowledge with you. Hopefully there's something from here that makes you a little bit less anxious, a little bit less nervous about trying the game for the first time. Oh, and since I'm here, and I'm sure someone will ask in the comments, yes, Chunkman episode 3 is still coming. There is a Cuddler episode that's almost finished production. There was just a few small issues with that have now been completed, so all I can say is, man, if you've not been keeping up with me on streams or on Discord or elsewhere, you probably don't realize that the last few months have just been an incredibly rough time for me. So I apologize that maybe some of the promises that I made just haven't been kept. I know that's a recurring theme with me. I'm working to do better, and hopefully, once Leaks is out the way, I will have some special updates for you very soon. So, in the meantime, I love you all. Thank you very much for watching this video. Mwah! And I'll see you on September the 15th for Leaks Catalyst.